Welcome to Take a Seat podcast, where we discuss the life journeys of people from all walks of life. So take a seat and enjoy the conversation. Today we are honored to take a seat with Steve.
How are you, Ethan? Savannah?
Before we go into this, for the listeners, I wanted to dive into a little bit of your accomplishments so far. And you've got quite a few, so I had to write them down. People listening, you have gained 2 Emmy Awards for your work as the host of Chicago Bulls basketball on Sports Channel in the 90s. You served as a TV radio host of Chicago Bulls for 24 years. You're a lead announcer and voice for the senior PGA Tour of the CNBC. You play voice for Celebrity Gold Association Professional Tour, Big Ten's Women's Volleyball, finally member of the 16 in Softball Hall of Fame in 2009. A lot of accomplishments.
Yes.
It's been a fun career. It really has.
I'd love to start at the beginning. So before the success in your career, who was young Steve?
I grew up in Park Ridge, Illinois, outside Chicago, and not far from O'Hare Airport. And I played baseball, basketball, football, a little bit of hockey growing up, and just loved sports, and played in high school. I played baseball and basketball in high school, and I would have loved to have taken it to another level. But, back then, boy, we didn't have any travel sports. We didn't have any personal assistance, there was very little like weightlifting, and all those things that the kids go through these days. So it was tough. Not that anyone didn't go to college and played sports, but I think I could have used travel sports and some, personal instruction and everything. Because as good as I thought I was, making Little League All-Star teams and that, it's hard to get to that next level. I thought, boy, but I love sports. So what can I do beyond high school to maybe think about staying in that space or in that career of some sort? So I thought, I always loved sportscasters growing up. I remember, believe it or not, in our family basement, putting up a little desk, and after watching a sportscaster do a sportscast, I would mock that, in a positive way. I would set up a little desk and put a little whatever I used as a microphone, and probably even dressed up and pretending I was doing, sports anchoring. So maybe it was in the cards then. But it's been a rewarding career. I went to DePaul University in Chicago, and I studied. They only had English majors. That's the best I could do my freshman year back then. But then after my sophomore year, they created a liberal arts of communications degree, which was great, Bachelor of Liberal Arts. And my big key was that I did an internship at Channel 5 in Chicago, WMAQ-TV, the NBC station, and I was in the sports department. Instead of going to school and college for 6 months, I literally went there 6 days a week to the TV station in the sports department and learned how to become a sportscaster. The guys I worked with were so instrumental in teaching me the business, teaching me how to edit, how to produce a sportscast, how to write a show, everything but be on camera. But by the end of that, I was able to do a little on-camera lead-in, and it helped me get my first TV job, which was in Wilmington, North Carolina, which was a dream come true. This was 2 years out of college. Actually worked on a cruise ship for 1 year as an assistant cruise director, which was incredible. Just decided to, hey, until I get into my sportscasting career where I was looking for a job, I had some buddies that I worked with during the summer at a summer resort, and they had these great cruise ship connections. So we worked on the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line Song of America, which was the largest ship vessel in the ocean at the time, and amazing 1 year life of working as an assistant cruise director on all those cruises. But then I got off and I said, okay, time to jump in my career. So fortunately, one of those guys I interned for at Channel 5 in Chicago got me my first TV job, in Wilmington, North Carolina, an NBC affiliate. It was called WECT. That was the city that Michael Jordan was born. Wilmington, North Carolina is also UNCW, University of North Carolina, Wilmington, a great little beach town right next to Wrightsville Beach, and Myrtle Beach was also the market. So I worked there for basically 2 years before I got my next job, which was in Greensboro, North Carolina, representing Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and High Point. I went from a 151 market, there's only 210 markets in the country, to a top 50 after 2 years in Wilmington. So it was a real big jump for me, and I was a weekend sports anchor there for 4 years. And then I wanted to come back to Chicago, and I heard that this station called Sports Channel was doing pregame, halftime, and postgame shows for the Bulls, White Sox, and Blackhawks games, and they only had one person doing them. So I applied and went in for an audition and did that one day, even though I was working still full time at my ABC station in Greensboro, North Carolina. But I got the job and was able to come back to Chicago, which was a real great dream. I missed the first Bulls championship with Michael Jordan, but I was able to cover the next 5. But I was a sports anchor at Sports Channel doing Bulls, Blackhawks, and White Sox pregame, halftime, postgame shows, and then got into the Bulls specifically for 5 of their next 6 championships. And then it went to radio after that because Sports Channel was sold to Fox Sports Net, and they got rid of all the anchors. It's a crazy business when you're a sportscaster and you win 2 Emmy Awards and you think you're doing great, then all of a sudden Fox comes in, and that was a young Fox. Those were young Fox days back in the mid-'90s, and they said, we're going to buy Sports Channel and we're not going to do those shows anymore. So, and then it became Comcast Sportsnet, then NBC Sports Chicago, and now it's Chicago Sports Network, which just started a few months ago. So it's a crazy TV business, but I'm very fortunate. And as I said, I got into the Bulls radio right after television, and that was a great thing because I got to travel with the Chicago Bulls for 5-6 seasons. And the last season, or my first radio season was the last season of the championship run with Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Phil Jackson, Dennis Rodman. So to travel on the team plane, the team buses, the team hotels, every game of the season from October when we started in Paris, France, to winning the championship in Utah in June. So it's been fun. It's been a great career and life journey. Very fortunate in many ways, riding the coattails of Michael Jordan and those Bulls teams, but it brought on a lot of popularity, and I just happened to ride the coattails of that. So it's been fun.
Dang, that's quite a career and quite a lot of different journeys. A lot of people tend to have one path and follow it, but you've kind of found a career and found a lot of different ways. And at the start, you talked about your experience at DePaul University. Let's break into that a little bit, because back then, DePaul was the face for Chicago. They had a great couple of seasons, and they were known for being the face of Chicago before the Bulls were the powerhouse that they were.
Ethan, that is a great point. People forget that because I remember I had a jacket. It said Chicago's team, the DePaul Blue Demons, and you are so right, because when Michael Jordan started with the Bulls, they were not a very good team. They barely made the playoffs, if ever, until they got up there, and then they got to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then obviously to the NBA Finals in 1991. But before that, it was DePaul. And when I was going to school there, we were number 1 in the country in basketball with Mark Aguirre, and just a great player out of Chicago Westinghouse High School, and became a great pro. Obviously with the Detroit Pistons and Dallas Mavericks, and Ray Meyer, the head coach. But yeah, it was when I was going there, we were number 1 in the country for a couple of years. So that's a great job by Ethan recognizing that, remembering that. And they were the biggest team in Chicago, ahead of the Bulls, Bears, White Sox, Blackhawks at the time, because they were the winningest team. So yeah, that was interesting. It was a fun time in college.
I think a lot of it comes down to, I suppose, if I was at a school that didn't have a lot of winning, didn't have a lot of success, that maybe I wouldn't be as focused as going in and broadcasting, because it's way more exciting to broadcast a team that's winning than a team that has a lot of energy and yeah, did that shape your path, or did anyone in your family, mentor, or community play a big role in shaping your ambitions and work ethic towards being a broadcaster?
Good question. You know what? My parents were great. I come from a large family, 6 kids and 2 wonderful parents, and growing up in Park Ridge, and they were always very, very backing. You know, the support was amazing of whatever I wanted to do, and choosing my path, and doing these internships, and making sure I always had a car and different things. And at DePaul, yeah. You know, we just had the DePaulia, which was the newspaper. We didn't have a big radio TV department like kids have now and college students, but to be able to do some reporting, and I actually was trying to help out and you know, kind of volunteer my time, because really the Chicago stations covered DePaul back at that time. So fortunately, when I did my internship, DePaul was very good. So that helped me get into the locker rooms and some different things and learn how to interview people. So that's another good point of, yeah, the internships are so invaluable. They're just fantastic. And when you have a good team, like Ethan mentioned, it helps a lot, you know, because all of a sudden the popularity is there, and it's a crowded place, and there's sellout crowds, and, you know, anything you do puts you on the map, so to speak. So I was fortunate that we did have a good team when I was in college, and able to do some things maybe that other kids weren't.
That's awesome. Yeah. There's so much good that has come out of having that popular team and all of that buzz around you. Was there any challenges, nerves, or, I mean, I know we talked about this in our last call, that really practice makes perfect.
Absolutely, Savannah. First, you get nervous just being with these professional broadcasters. You know, the topping, the Chicago's the #3 market in the country. So the guys I were working for were some of the best. And so I was very nervous doing that internship and trying to fit in. And, you know, you're really just a kid that comes in as a college student, and you go get them coffee and Coke, and, you know, make sure you're on time and you're doing your part, and there's no calling in sick, and there's no showing up late. And it's just, you know, being part of the family. And I think that's so important. People miss that sometimes. And then, Savannah, what you also brought up was, with me personally, when I was starting to do my different things on camera, when I was going through my internships. I also did another internship in North Carolina, following one of the broadcasters that I worked with when I did my internship at Channel 5 in Chicago. He was from North Carolina originally, then he went back, and he had me stay at his house for 3 months so I could put together my first audition tape. And I was very nervous. We went and he lived in Raleigh, North Carolina, so we got to cover Duke and North Carolina and NC State and Wake Forest, some of the best teams in the ACC. And I remember being at you know, covering Duke, and they gave me a camera guy to go out with just to follow him and hold the microphone. And he said, "Hey, why don't you do a stand-up here at Duke's Cameron Indoor Stadium, you know, where the Duke Blue Devils play, one of the most popular arenas in the country." And, you know, I went up there, and I was, you know, "Here I am." And I remember, because the first guy I showed the tape to, he's like, "You don't have to yell," you know. And so, but I was very nervous on camera. But to your point, though, Savannah, you got to get comfortable. And when I was in Wilmington, North Carolina, my first TV job, the whole thing was make your mistakes. You know, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to stumble. You're going to mumble. You're going to fumble. I remember in my first month, I did a whole sports cast that was about 4 or 5 minutes, and I was mumbling over my words. I thought I did a good job. Hey, didn't I look good up there? And the news director, you know, got me in one of our private edit suites, and he played the tape for me. He goes, "Here's what you did last night." You know, he said, "Yeah, you look good and everything," but he said, "I can't understand some of your highlights. You know, slow it down. Don't make it, you know, you're trying to compact way too much. Make it simple. Do what you can do to make it easy on yourself." And what I learned throughout all my life in broadcasting, if you're comfortable on camera or on the radio, audio, whatever it is, the people watching you, listening to you, are going to be comfortable. So that's a real big key. You be comfortable, they're going to be comfortable watching you. I remember, you know, all my life watching sportscasters who nervous, or people on the news, and you just you feel for them, and you don't really listen to what they're saying. You just look at them. But when they're natural and comfortable in their skin and doing a good job, then the message gets out, and you get so much more from that. So, yeah, I was nervous. I laugh now when I see some of my first tapes. I still have them on VHS tape, and every now and then, you put something on, and you look and you say, geez, that's what I was like 30 years ago. Boy, that was horrible. And I looked horrible, and I had my makeup on, and it was caked on, and I didn't need to do that. So you just learn these things. But the whole thing is being comfortable. That's number one. And to this day, I feel so much more comfortable, even though it's been 30 years of this career. And obviously you're going to get comfortable in the 30 years, but I always think about that. Slow down, make it worth everything you say, make every word worth it, and be comfortable. That's the whole key to this whole thing.
Yeah, really good advice. And I think that a lot of people want to see results straight away, but as you had just attested to, like, over your 30 years, you still go back and look at how you started and the progression you made. And I think it's very, very important going into field, like we're started into our fields, that you have that perseverance of it's okay to make mistakes. Like, I'm a basketball player. Basketball outlook is the more you put into it, the more you're going to get back. And it's the same in any workforce and any job. And before I move on I want to move on to your current goals and path with the golf. I just want to know, what's your coolest story that you've had on your journey when you was on that bus? The basketball in me's got to know.
Boy, I have, you know what, when I was traveling with the Chicago Bulls, I took notes, and I've already been approached by a couple people to write a book. And at the time that I was approached, I was still a Bulls employee, so I couldn't, you can't tell all your stories because they may not, I want to keep my job, but I left the Bulls a few years ago, so maybe I could still write that book. But I took notes everywhere, back from, I used to sit right in front of Michael Jordan on the plane. I had the seat in front of him every trip. Sometimes I remember staying in a hotel room next to Dennis Rodman, and he was up there with let me think now, Eddie Vedder, from the rock singer, right? Eddie Vedder was with him. He for some reason he would just show up on the trips, and Dennis was dating Carmen Electra at the time. So you come into a lobby after playing a night, and you fly into a new city, and there's Carmen Electra and Eddie Vedder in the lobby, waiting for Dennis. And I stayed in the room next to them one time. It was crazy, but those type of stories are a lot of fun. But I was thinking of a story last night, actually, because I was on one of the social media sites, and I saw something about Michael Jordan, that they're coming out with I think they've done it a few times. Nike comes out with his first shoe he ever wore, the Air Jordan 1. And I remember in 1998, we were in New York playing at Madison Square Garden, Bulls and Knicks, on a big national TV game. This was Jordan's last year with the Bulls in their last championship season. And Nike asked Michael to wear the original Air Jordan shoes. And kind of a publicity stunt. And he said, yeah, why not? It'll be fun. And, NBC promoted it. Nike promoted it. It was a big thing. And Michael had a great game that game. Obviously, I think he scored 40 or 50 points, and the Bulls won. And we were on the plane about to come back to Chicago after that game. And we always, before you take off, they always put hors d'oeuvres out, and snacks and different things. And people would kind of mingle around the plane and get their whatever they wanted to drink, and cheese and crackers or whatever. And I was milling about the plane and next to Michael, and I had to ask him. So I went up to him, I said, MJ, what'd you think of those shoes? I said, how'd you like wearing the old Air Jordans? And he looked at me, he said, and he called me Cash. My last name is Kashul. And he said, Cash, he said, I will never do that again. He said, you should see my feet right now. They are bloodied. They're cut. They hurt so bad. I don't know how I got through that game. I don't care what Nike pays me. I will never do that again. And I can't believe I wore that shoe back my rookie season, but I'm happy we've made the shoes so much better. But he said, never again. That was one of the hardest games I ever played with my feet. But that was a great little just interaction stuff that, maybe no one's ever heard that story, or maybe Michael talked about it later, but he couldn't say what he said to me. I'm sharing it with you guys, saying that I don't care what Nike pays me, they pay him a lot of money, but it was one of my stories. I've got so many of those little just things with Michael and with Scottie Pippen and with Dennis Rodman, and those little one-off stories that, made it so rewarding and things I'll remember the rest of my life.
Hey, we're going to have to see that book. We're going to have to get it going. I'll definitely be one of the people getting one of those copies.
Oh, thank you. That would be fun.
Wow.
But then going on to your current endeavors, talk about golf a little bit and what made you shift over and really to where you are right now.
Well, good point. My first ever job, I was 16 years old in Park Ridge, Illinois, and my uncle worked at Marriott's Lincolnshire Resorts in Lincolnshire, Illinois. It was about 30 minutes from our house, and they had a nice 18-hole golf course. And I was 16 years old, and I remember he called me and said, "Hey," he goes, "I've gotten to know the golf pro. Would you like a job?" And I was the cart boy, for golf carts, and I would wash them and put them on, put the chargers on and make sure they were charged the next day. And that was my first ever job because I was eligible to work. You couldn't work till you were 16, but I was a Marriott employee at a golf course. I'd never played golf before, didn't know a lot about golf, but being in that atmosphere for the entire summer, then I worked there the next 2 summers and got to know the golf pros. They gave me lessons, and I fell in love with the game of golf. So, and back at Sports Channel, back in the early 90s, there was a gentleman named Dave Lockhart, who's still a good friend of mine. And I knew he was a big golfer. He was one of our producers at Sports Channel. And he said, "Hey, I know you love golf." He goes, "I love golf. I've always wanted to produce a golf show. How would you like to be my host? And maybe we go in together and do a golf show on television, a 30-minute show on Sports Channel. Let's see if the people in charge here, the production, people who are in charge of Sports Channel would like that." So we went to them and they said, "Yeah, if you guys pay for it, we'll give you a great rate. But if you want to buy the time on Sports Channel and, you can have access to edit and everything here and do your own show, fantastic." So that started back in 1993. And it's called The Golf Scene, and I've been doing it ever since. We've never missed a year. It's going on 32 years now, and Dave has moved on. He's doing a different show now. It's actually a competitor show, but we remain best friends. But there were 4 of us who started the show. We had a photographer, a sales guy. Dave produced it. I hosted it, and The Golf Scene has been tried and true for us. We won some national awards with the International Network of Golf, and we won a Tully Award. So it's been a lot of fun. It's the only sport I play now, besides maybe a little pickleball and training and working out a little bit. But you get to a point or a stage in your life where there's not a lot of sports you can still play besides throwing batting practice or having some fun. And I was never really into tennis or anything. So I can still play golf, love golf, but I continue to host this show to this day, have a partner who I'm in business with and a whole production team that we work with. So it's on, it was on Sports Channel. Then we followed all the stations. It was on Comcast Sportsnet or Fox after Sports Channel, and then Comcast Sportsnet and NBC Sports Chicago. All those stations have gone away, and now it's on Chicago Sportsnet for the first year. They're the home of the White Sox, Bulls, and Blackhawks. So great question, but it's the only thing. It keeps my hand in broadcasting right now, which I love. We do usually 4 shows every summer and at least 1 or 2 in the winter. And I love it. I host it, and I help produce it and do all the interviews for it. So it's kind of a labor of love. And there's a lot of perks with it because I get to play a lot of good golf courses and cover the pros when they come to town, or if we ever decide to go anywhere. We've been to Hawaii, though. We've been to Scotland. So also some nice travel trips as well doing the show.
That's awesome. I have to tune into that sometime. I'm gonna have to stay up to date with that because I've been kind of getting into golf as well, and I just love watching it, especially if you're broadcasting it. I know it's interesting, fun. Throughout your whole life, there's been so much resilience and continuations of kind of like staying true to who you are. what advice would you give your younger self or young professionals trying to find their identity or purpose in their careers and trying to stay true to what they want to do in life?
Yeah, good question, Savannah. I think it goes back to, being comfortable, but and your path may take on different things. I was fortunate, although looking right now, and I look at some of the people making the biggest money because, when you start having a family and everything, it's like, wow, what was I doing? Although, it's been rewarding in a lot of ways, but boy, should I have gone into money or real estate, been a financial planner. But I look at all those things and go, wow, maybe it could have, set up the future better in some ways, though it hasn't been bad for me. But then again, I say, you know what? I loved every minute. I never felt like I was working, Yeah, you put in the hours and some very long days and everything. And sportscasting is different. I mean, to this day, I've been so used to for 30 years. I had literally a 2 p.m. or 2:30 start time, and you're done at 11 or midnight. So more of a late night person than an early morning person. Not a lot of sports or things happen early morning, especially back then. You were always doing your shows late around the games. That's when the games are played. So it was a different lifestyle. But and things are going to change. You have to be, if you go into sportscasting, or the media, wow, you think, you won 2 Emmy Awards and you think you're at the top of your game and you're doing the Chicago Bulls, and you go in one day and they say, you know what, the station was just sold. All the anchors and on-air people are going away. You lost your job. That happened to me twice. It also happened to me. I worked at CLTV in Chicago, a station that was run by the Tribune Company and kind of a sister station of WGN-TV. And worked with really talented people, and they came in one day and said, hey, after doing sports for 2 years, we're just not going to have a sports department anymore. That's what the owners decided. Wow, what? Another shock. So that's when you finally start thinking about, okay, I've got to do something to support a family. And it's a bit of a crazy business, but that's the business world. You're going to get hired and fired and different things. So be on the lookout to pivot, okay? And, I went from being a full-time sportscaster for almost 30 years, and now I do commercial insurance full-time, which I've done for 10 years. And for a while there, I was doing the Bulls because it was part-time as far as pay goes, but I was working, 15-hour days. I would do commercial insurance from, 8:30 till 4, run home, and get ready for my Bulls game, and then be there by 5 and work 5 till 11 o'clock at night. But again, labor of love. So you do what you need to do, but do what you love. I think that's the big thing. I'll never regret the sportscasting. I got very fortunate. Was very fortunate. I fell into the Michael Jordan era. Very fortunate. No one was doing golf shows back then, so that's why I think we've been able to do a golf show now for the past 32 years. So stick with your dreams, right? And just keep trying to get your mistakes done early, but you're still going to make mistakes. You're still going to stumble and fumble and things, and you're going to write a story and think it's great, or you're going to be on camera and think it's great, but you're going to laugh at yourself 10 years from then. And say, wow, I wasn't very comfortable, even though I thought I was doing a great job. And that's all part of it, though. It's the growth, right? So be prepared to grow, pivot, be ready to get fired. It's okay. There's a lot of jobs out there and a lot of careers you can go into, but do something you like. Okay, if you don't like it, give it a chance, give it an honest chance, but do something you really enjoy. And that's the key, because you don't want to wake up unhappy. There's certain jobs I just would never do. I'm not a 4:30 a.m. person that wants to put on a suit and go downtown Chicago and work in a high rise. I will never do it. I never had to do it. That just doesn't seem like fun. And a lot of people do, a lot of successful people. And I hand it to them, but it's not for me. I took another life that I've loved, though. But back to as Ethan and Savannah, both of you were saying, what did you do when you were young? How did you grow up? And sports has been a big part of my life. So fortunately, I was able to do something along those lines.
Yeah, that's huge, to do something that you're passionate about and not feel like you're waking up and it's just another day and you have to go. It's like, I want to go do this. And that's something that I'm really getting into myself with this new job I have with Rachel Weaver. I'm just like so excited. But my previous job, I'm like, oh, I got to wake up for this. And yeah, so I totally get where you're coming from there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then so something I want to, before we tie this to a close, a couple of things I want to talk about. Firstly, you've got your kids are doing successful as we speak, and I want to just hear a little bit about that, like being a father, broadcasting, and now your kids are in the sporting world. And does that play an impact on you continue to be a part of it, your business life, and then your family?
Well, that's a great point, Ethan, because you know what? One reason I left the Bulls a few years ago is because my boys were getting older, and I knew, pretty young on they were decent athletes and will continue to play, hopefully in high school and beyond. And I've got two boys. One is 20, and he played baseball, basketball, football, hockey growing up, and he chose hockey. And he played AAA for 5 years, and now he's in his second year of junior hockey out in the Boston area. And he just committed to a Division III school called Norwich University. That's my oldest son, Corey, and so proud of him. One of the leading scorers on his junior team. He's the captain of his junior team right now. He plays for Cape Cod in the Eastern Hockey League, and doing very well, loves it. And we don't get to see him all that often. I get to watch every game online, which is great. So it's so fortunate. And then my younger son is Troy, who just turned 18, and he is a baseball and football player. Junior year, he was all conference, all area in baseball, and this year started both ways on a football team that went to the semifinals in the highest class of football in Illinois in high school, and he made all conference and all area. Plus, both boys were all conference scholastically with great point averages, and the first one graduated with honors. So that's my little brag, but
Yeah.
very, very fortunate, very proud of them. But a great point, Ethan and Savannah, is that I decided to drop down and not do as much broadcasting because I was missing their games. I mean, my son Corey, when he played AAA hockey for Team Illinois, I remember they had 10 travel trips. I missed 9 of them because I had to do every Bulls game. And 24 years of doing the Bulls, I missed 2 games in 24 years for my father's wake and funeral and for my mom's wake and funeral. And the Bulls were great about it. Hey, take as much time as you as you want. But I just felt like it was a job that you don't go on vacation during the season. You don't take time off. I remember I had a bad tooth. I needed a root canal, and I woke up on a Saturday morning. I had a Bulls game that night, but I went into the studio, and I felt like I could hardly talk, but I felt like it was a job you don't miss. So I missed 2 games in 24 years.
Wow.
And I sacrificed not going to a lot of my boys' games. They were playing all kinds of travel sports, but I had a job to do, and that's the only way to do it. But I'm fortunate now because I get to watch everything they play, whether it's online or in person. I don't think I've missed one of my son Troy's. Played travel baseball, high school football, played basketball 3rd grade through 8th grade at a high level, and very fortunate the times of those games. If I had a Bulls game to do, I was obviously doing the Bulls game, but the last number of years when they've gotten older, I took that sacrifice saying I'm not going to be as much of a sportscaster because I got to watch the boys play. And it's been very rewarding, incredible, because they're reaching things that I was never able to do on the athletic field. So I'm very fortunate and blessed.
It's great to see. And I think from their standpoint, it must have been such a blessing being able to be around you, be around the environment that you was at, being at the Bulls. Like, that'd be a dream to me to meet some of the players that you've been able to broadcast over, and just now getting that time. And I think that's what life's about, is about following the process and the journey, but also knowing like what it's all about. Like, family's the key to life, and having the blessing of having 2 kids and being able to see them succeed in a path where whether yours be broadcasting, theirs is playing, it's still in the same field of sports, and that's truly just a blessing to see.
Absolutely, and you bring up a good point, because there was a story not last spring about Troy, my baseball football player, and it said, he grew up a different life because I was able to take him to Bulls games and bring him in the locker room and bring him on the bench and, pictures with all these guys, and meeting Dennis Rodman and meeting Horace Grant and, wearing the championship ring that, when I introduced him to these guys, and they took him under their wing, and taking my boys to some of these Bulls clinics that were only, and you're only invited if you're a major sponsor, and the Bulls always open their arms and say, hey, bring your boys. We know they like sports, and whatever we're doing here, tickets or these camps or clinics or whatever, so my boys were very fortunate that they got to experience some of those things that maybe other kids don't, so they appreciated that. And then when The Last Dance was on, the Bulls documentary, so that's the first time probably the boys got to see me, because I had some appearances in there and I did some voiceover for The Last Dance, and I was in a number of episodes, and it was fun to watch that with them because they saw what we went through. They saw maybe, Michael Jordan and that so-called dream team that the Bulls had playing, and so it was fun to share that with them, and kind of show what I did as part of that in a small role. But big for me, but that was a lot of fun to share.
Yeah, seeing your dad do all that must be so inspiring for them. It's definitely, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So them going to those events and meeting those people, I mean, that probably motivated them so much. I mean, they can say, yeah, I met, so-and-so, and it just kind of adds to their portfolio, basically. You've really passed that on. That's really great.
And before you wrap this up, because we've been going for a little bit, I just want one question. Have every game you've ever broadcasted, which is the game that just is most unforgettable? Like, what was your favorite experience? I mean, it might be hard. There's been a lot of games. You said you only missed 2 in 24 years. What is your favorite experience game?
Yeah, boy. I go back to the last one Michael Jordan played in, that last championship season, and we were in Utah, and game 6 of the NBA Finals, 1998, and not knowing if you're gonna beat the Utah Jazz. You were on their court, and a crazy place to play. Those fans were rabid, and great fans in Utah. But for Michael to make the steal and hit the game-winning shot, what a dramatic, perfect finish for him, going to the NBA Finals 6 years in a row and winning all 6 NBA championships and being the MVP again. And you knew it was their last year. That's why they call it The Last Dance. That was the last year for Phil Jackson as a Bulls coach. Last year that Michael Jordan, Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen were ever play together. And Steve Kerr and Bill Wennington and Tony Kukoc and on down the line, and to be part of that and part of that little family that we had, that was maybe that's the game that sticks out to me, instead of some random game from the 2,500 that I did. I got to pick the last one, not the last one I did, but the last one with that incredible team. And then, the whole thing that went with it. And we were in Utah, and we went up to Michael. Michael Jordan had a beautiful suite. We went after the game, and they all showered and everything. And Michael had a piano, and you might see some of this on the Last Dance. And I was in that room with a buddy of mine who came and watched the game, and I got him a ticket. And he was staying at the same hotel we were with the team. And we were up in Michael's room. Michael's playing the piano. Not that he was, a piano player by any sorts, but he was, drinking champagne, and we were all having a beer and some champagne, and with kind of his group, and that was a couple other players. So those memories come back to me, which was a lot of fun.
That is huge. I can't even imagine.
Yep, absolutely. And I'll tell you one more story. Okay, so this is kind of fun. We were coming back on the plane. We're going to stay overnight because it was getting late in Utah, and everyone said, "Okay, stay." No reason to pack. We're going to stay overnight. It's too late to fly back to Chicago. It was a good 3-hour flight or something. And all of a sudden, either Jerry Reinsdorf, the Bulls owner, or Jerry Krause, the general manager, or Phil Jackson, someone said, "You know what? Let's go home. We don't need to stay an extra night. Let's just go fly home. I think the players would rather be home tonight." So they told us to go back to our rooms, pack, and this was like midnight. And so we packed, got on the bus, and went to the airport, and we're flying home. And it was it was just 12 players, the coaching staff, a few media people, me and the guys I did radio with, and a trainer or two, and a couple security people, and some Bulls media people, media services. And that was the whole traveling party, really. Wasn't a lot of them. And so we're flying home. And I remember behind me, Michael's sitting there, and he's got the championship trophy, in the seat next to him, which was a lot of fun. But we're about to fly into Chicago, and I happened to be up in the front of the plane for some reason. Bill Wennington and I, Bulls center at that time, he's now a radio announcer with the Bulls. We were going back and forth because I had a little video camera that I was taking pictures of, and I've lost the video. It's killing me. I've misplaced it somewhere, but I went back and, Michael Jordan on the plane and stuff that would be probably very valuable these days. I've got to find that tape. But Bill had his own cameras. We were sharing a battery. Most battery would go out, and my battery, I had a little charger, so we were going back and forth. I was up in the front of the plane with Steve Kerr and Luke Longley and Tony Kukoc and Judd Bushler and Randy Brown, some of those people. And I remember, back to my story, we were about to descend into Chicago, and all of a sudden we hit this air pocket, and we dropped, and it felt like 100-foot drop. I mean, the whole plane just went, and everyone just like, whoa, what was that? And then we leveled out, and we were fine, but it was a bit of a shock, And I never forget, Luke Longley, the Bulls starting center from Australia, stands up and he says to everyone on the plane, he goes, guys, if you think we're famous now, if this plane crashes, we're going to really be famous. So that was one of those untold stories I don't think anyone's ever heard of before. I share it sometimes when I MC. But it was the whole place went, the whole plane just went up. That was a classic line from a little incident there on the way home, and we got home safely. The rest is history. So,
well, we appreciate your time, Steve. This was a great conversation. We're really thankful for your journey and how it's a proof that success includes talent, but it's also mindset, perseverance, knockbacks, and staying true to who you are. We just thank you for giving us your time and your insights on your story.
Well, thank you. You two have a great future. I know that. Ethan will keep an eye on you from the basketball court for Grand Valley. All right. And Savana. Met Savana for the first time last month, right? At Kate Vittorini's event. And he's a special young guy, and I've emceed, and it's great to see Savana, and she's off and running, and just a wonderful personality and full of life and energy. So I wish you two all the best as well.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic. I wish you guys the best. Keep in touch, okay?
You will. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.